Warning. Some users may find the following hairstyle disturbing. Okay, so, excuse my iffy voice, I'm kinda ill.
2319! We have a 2319! Okay.
Alright, calm down, lads. I don't have what you think I have. Hey, speaking of that... Hey, man, this outbreak is pretty crazy, right? Yeah, I know, man. It just shows the humanity. People don't care anymore. People just... Yeah, I know about that, but, like, wouldn't it make a perfect video game? You're like this rogue government agent set to try and control the whole population after this outbreak. Factions have been made, prisoners escaped, and you need to try and stop them all, and you're like going through this city where it's all messed up, cars everywhere, trash everywhere. Hey, where have I heard this before?
Readings indicate this area is safe.
Okay, so let me bring forward the number one complaint about this game before I even start. Yes, another game downgraded from what's shown in the E3 trailers, and I understand your frustration.
All of you out there, the Division broke records when...
Ubisoft should not be allowed to do what they did with the Division and Watch Dogs, but Ubisoft still pulled through and gave us amazing games despite the downgrading graphics. Okay, now let me get into some positives about Tom Clancy's The Division. The Division is a story about New York and how it's dealing with the green poison virus that spread through the city after Black Friday. You are hired as a Division agent brought in to attempt to restore Manhattan to what it once was. Now, the Division is what's known as a looter-shooter. A looter-shooter is a genre of video game that fluidly mixes both RPG elements and a point-and-click style shooting game. Now, looter shooters are not a very loved genre due to its simplistic and boring style of doing the same thing over and over again. But personally, for me, I think Ubisoft perfected this game. As much as I love unique storytelling in games, I also want to be able to turn off my brain and just, well, loot and shoot. Walking around the isolated, snowy atmosphere of New York while listening to the beautiful synth soundtrack is honestly such a peaceful thing to do. This simplistic style mixed in with this unique atmosphere makes for some great gameplay. You're not fighting in a stale, flat surface, but enemies are everywhere, in buildings, on rooftops. This fun open atmosphere with unlocked trashed apartments, opening doors and cabinets to find weapons and clothing choices, while being able to look at echoes to see a story that once took place. It's fun. Things you collect on the way and the very terrifying factions you meet on the way. Just allow for this enjoyable game. While the story is incredibly short, it was still fun going to these places and taking out these large waves of enemies, which make it so satisfying to see that mission complete header. The encounters popping up on the map randomly are a brilliant twist of expectations. This game may have a weak story, but its environment, enemies, and missions just make it great. And something else amazing I want to talk about is that they showed the depressing, sad and evil side before what we see in the original game. Phone recordings and videos showed the depressing and scary situation people found themselves in.
All routes in and out of Manhattan will remain closed until quarantine is lifted.
Hey, buddy, what's wrong?
I think they're trying to break in.
Open up! Police! Don't open. Call 911.
You're not picking up. Dad, you've got to come home.
I'm trying, buddy, but the goddamn bridge.
You're breaking down the door.
How? Did you get the gun from my desk?
What?
Go get the gun!
Dad!
And the sad ones.
I have a fever and I can't stop throwing up. I just can't stop. I think I need a doctor.
Ma'am, I can forward the call to the emergency center. Can you tell me your name and address?
I'm all alone. I don't want to be alone.
And even some that probably left us speechless.
Mom, it's Renee, and I hope you get this message. I'm okay, but I can't get out of Manhattan, and everyone's getting sick. I had to have a couple of drinks to get up the nerve to call you. something I wanted to tell you in person, but now I don't know if... I'm gay, Mom. I've always been gay. It's why I came to New York. And Julie isn't my roommate, Mom. Well, she is, but... yeah. I hope you're okay, Mom. And I hope you're okay about this. And that you don't hate me. And that you're okay. I love you, Mom. I love you.
Listening to these recordings and not knowing if the person who made them is still out there is dark, and it adds an extra layer into this game: humanity. In the game you fight countless factions of heartless bastards killing and destroying the life, and the city feels empty, so sucked out of what it once was. The phone recordings, they take us back to what it once was. Of course, with everything come downsides. The game seems to want to overpower its enemies constantly. Hey, as if you weren't already about to die, let's add a no respawn zone and let's make our enemies 20 times stronger than us so we can pull our own hair out. I mean, seriously. However, they aren't always a challenge. The Division suffers from something called bullet sponge bosses. Bullet sponge bosses, or BSBs, are enemies with large amounts of health. However, these enemies can absorb a lot of damage through constantly aiming and firing at them. Now, how does this work in the Division? Well, in the Division, the bosses are given large health bars and they're covered in armor. However, being covered in armor makes them walk much more slowly. When these characters walk slowly, it makes it easier for the player to simply run somewhere, take cover and fire. And this cycle repeats with every other boss in the game. With this tactic, it makes boss fights dull and continuous. When the player does this enough, it doesn't pose quite a challenge anymore. I found myself defeating the hardest boss in the game on the first try. How? Well, by simply taking cover and firing. And not to mention, if you're walking somewhere far, oh yeah, so I said walking. Since fast travel is locked till you reach and unlock areas, you have to walk to areas. And if you're getting killed by these overpowered twats, then you're gonna end up back at a safe house 9 kilometers away. Like, come on, Ubisoft. Add some sort of Division car or chopper to travel in. Okay, moving from single player, which isn't single player by the way, because you're seemingly stuck online whether you're in the dark zone or not. Wanna pause the game and go eat dinner? Well, no can do, Sonny, you're stuck online. Like, seriously, the option to pause would not be so bad. Hey, if you wanna enter the dark zone, be prepared for some mega fucking frame drops. Just entering the dark zone freezes my whole game to the point where doing anything is difficult. And few minor irritations like characters speaking over each other.
The sentry's attention, mainly by shooting.
Will you two shut up?
And last but not least, my main issue with the Division is it feels so hollow and empty. So you did the main missions, the side missions, and the encounters, now what? Do it all again except with more overpowered enemies and the risk of being shot by a rogue agent? I finished this game recently and I just wish I could get more out of it. It was a fun game to play and I just wish it was better. Oh wait, the Division 2 exists.